All right, so here on the Gray Man Podcast, we have a special guest today, and the special guest, I don't introduce my guest, man, because operation security, I don't never get a name. I let you tell your name and who you want to be called. So, sir, let's go. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Christopher Tibbs. I am 32 years old. As you can see, I am a USCCA instructor, but my primary job is here. I've studied your podcast though.
Okay.
And so the Gray Man Podcast, you use your job as an opportunity to network very well.
Okay.
So I saw what you were doing. That was very great. And it kind of inspires me as an instructor as well. And you got out there. So I looked into your channel and I looked at some of the videos you have because you had told me that you were interested in some of the hobbies that I do.
Yeah.
And so I have a bunch of different skill sets, which we'll get into later, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I'll let you lead the questions. But so I saw that the titles of your videos,
Okay.
Unexpected Hero,
Okay.
This ambulance dispatch running into some heroic situation and their traumatic stories. You have a psychologist on one of your, and she's dating,
married. She's married to a police officer.
To a police officer, and she talks about those stories.
Yep.
And I saw the Unexpected Hero one from the gentleman named Monty.
Okay.
From New York. 82nd Airborne.
Yeah.
And I saw the comments. I read the comments because, I like to lurk to the comment section.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, they're like, man,
you're one of the trolls too,
this dude is real. And they're like, I'm surprised that he's a cop.
Yeah.
And so I looked at that and I'm like, man, what can I really bring to the table? Because I'm not a hero. But I do have some interesting stories that can maybe provide something to what you brought me here for today.
You're definitely a hero, man. You wouldn't be here if you wasn't. Definitely wouldn't be here if you. So let's go ahead and get into your story, man. Where are you from?
I'm from Maryland.
Okay.
I've lived most of my life in Florida, though.
Okay, that's what's up. What part of Maryland?
Silver Spring.
The DMV.
Yeah.
I know exactly where that is. So, all right. So you said you spent most of your life in Florida.
Yeah.
What part of Florida?
Lakeland. All in Lakeland by Lake Merriam.
Okay.
That area. It's a very slow area. It's a slow area and there's a lot of old people, unfortunately.
It's all good. So, Central Florida.
So, yeah.
What was your upbringing like?
So, I know there's a lot of. I'll get into it.
Yeah.
But I've never really talked too much about it, so I might get a little discomfortable here and there.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm gonna go into it. So, we grew up in Washington, D.C. My parents were lucky enough to live basically on the same development, just right on the other side of the road from each other.
Okay.
And so I'm mixed.
Okay.
I'm essentially black and white. There's a lot of German in my family. There's a lot of Europe in my family.
Well, welcome to America.
And so on one side, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because are you mixed or anything?
I have a bunch of mixtures. I'm like black, white, and everything else.
So you've told me your life story, which I'm surprised there's not an episode on that.
Nah, it's never about me, man.
Yours is crazy, and it's because some of the words you've told me about that belly when you had your first child. You said your girlfriend's belly just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Getting bigger, bro.
Son. I'm looking at that right now with my fiance. And I'm
no doubt. Congratulations.
So thank you.
Yeah.
So on one side of the neighborhood was the quote unquote the white household, right? And then the other side of the neighborhood was the black household.
Okay.
And it's interesting because how each one came about is there's substantial differences.
Mm-hmm.
So on the black side of the upbringing, which might sound a little bit familiar to you, a lot of people, noise, it's the party house. There was a basement. That basement, as an adult, that basement would have been badass. They had a bar down there, games. They had some kind of steering wheel hooked up to play some studio or arcade game.
Yeah.
Upstairs, downstairs, everything was there, and it was the place to be. It was my grandmother's house, and that was my mom's side of the family.
Okay.
And so obviously my mom and all of her sisters would always be there. My mom had a very big family. Everyone was kind of together, like a brotherhood.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the family, which was the quote unquote the white side of the family, very quiet.
No doubt.
That was my dad's side of the family. So we would go there, and I'm a father's child. It was never a mama's boy. I love my mother, obviously, and it's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I love her, but we just didn't resonate on the same page a lot. Okay. So my father, at the end of the day, we would go back to that grandmother's house because that was his mom. So that's where the resting point was for the day. And I would always just follow my dad wherever he went. My dad is a saint, by the way. Bless my mother, but my dad is he's a superman. Took out the trash, did the dishes. He cooks for my mother. He treats her like an absolute princess. He paid the bills. He carried the family. He's there no matter what my mom is screaming at him for. He never screams back. He does everything. Yeah. And there's 5 boys. So, and I know my mother wanted a daughter, and it just drove her crazy that there was just 5 boys in the house. Yeah. And I think she did get her mama's boy that she wanted, you know, because one of my brothers does confidant in her. Yeah, so I think she got her golden child. Yeah. But ultimately, I always followed my father, and so that side of the family was just very quiet, independent, do your thing. And I was a kid, so and we would always go up there on vacation or something like that. So I always had time to think and play my video games and just watch cartoons and just be me. Yeah, whereas on the other side of the family, it was just so much noise. It was kind of overwhelming for a kid growing up. And so I stuck to that side. And I think that really affected how I grew up because now, older in my adult life, I like a quiet household. Yeah, true. All the noise, I never got accustomed to all the noise and all the people. So I became a little antisocial. Currently with my fiance, she's very tight-knit family and culture and community. And then me, I kind of just want to do my thing. I'm kind of a one-on-one person. Me and my fiance, let's do our thing. Yeah. And then everybody else can come next. So it was crazy seeing the differences growing up in the 2 different kind of cultural households. Yeah. And what was funny growing up is we never really talked a whole lot about like what it meant to be mixed, white, or black. We never really talked about it. So growing up, and I lived in a rich white area in Lakeland. Yeah. So growing up, I never really looked at what it was to be a male. Yeah, of course. Growing up in high school. And everyone's trying to figure out their phases and whatever they're going through. And I remember in my school, it was always the gothic kids, rednecks. Then you had skater kids and stuff like that, or the preps, cool kids. Yeah. And I never really fit in. I never fit in anywhere. It was weird to me. And I didn't really fit in with the black culture either. And I never fit in anywhere. And so my best friend at the time was the quarterback of the football team. He was the most popular kid in school. And growing up, the cool kids it didn't work for me. So I ended up hanging out with the nerds. And I found my place there, but then it started getting real cringy. And so I kind of got to see how everything went at, you know, the cool kid level and then just bottom of the barrel. It was cringy. So I ended up finding myself right in the middle. But I remember I dated a white girl, one of my exes, and I went to her. It was a Baptist church. I was the only black kid there. and so what's funny about that is that was the day that really clicked that there was something different about me, right? Yeah. Because we played dodgeball, and I'm the only black kid playing sports with all these other kids, right? Yeah. Everybody was moving in slow motion. I did not get tagged out one time, and I know they were trying. And I remember that day, I was just looking at my hands, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "This is a thing." And you know, growing up in sports, I always had a rival. It was always a rival, and it was always a black gentleman, and that was always weird to me. But I realized it was because they would always call me like half breed or off breed, something like. I remember that. Yeah, I got bullied, so I started a fight club, and that's a whole other story. Yeah. We'll get into that. So in school, would you say you were kind of athletic then, or? Yeah, I just because I know you said your best friend was a quarterback, right? At the time, yeah, his name was Billy, and he was the quarterback. He had perfect genes. He was like the fastest kid in school, and he lived in my neighborhood, so we just grew up together. But you know, as that goes on, it just didn't sit right with me. Yeah, I don't view myself as really that cool. You know what I mean? So I didn't like it. So how about college? Did you do college? Yeah, I went to college, and that's actually where I kind of broke my shell a little bit. Yeah. So something maybe a little inspirational to talk about here, and it's going to go deep kind of, and I'll try not to keep it too long, but there is something here.
Shoot.
So before college, at the end of high school, I had a fight club, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I damaged my nerve endings. And what that means is I don't feel pain in the same way you do. So if you were to punch me, there's a blunt impact there. But for me, I can feel, but I have an extra thing there to it. It's going to feel like electricity. If you imagine a Christmas tree and you put your lights around the Christmas tree and some of those lights don't work because they're Christmas lights and the other ones do, those lights that aren't working are shocking me. Yeah. And so I just call them flare-ups. And a lot of this, for a lot of my youth, I didn't know what it was because there's nothing to show you that I'm in pain. I'm going to get a little red. But there's no physical, like scarring or anything like that that's going to show you that I'm in pain. So I'll tell you how I damaged my nerve endings. That's a bloody story. But what happens is in high school, I thought I had skin cancer because there's no explanation for what's going on. I was just in pain. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out what to do really about it. The only thing to soothe it was taking cold showers all the time. And so, where was I? I was talking about, okay. So that made me a little antisocial because I was afraid of, I went on a date one time and we were at the movie. We saw The Mummy, one of the mummies. And at the end of the movie, I had gotten nervous because you're on a date. And so the way the brain works with pain is it sends signals and it tells you you're in pain. Yeah. My nerve endings they're not normal. So what it happens is my brain is sending false signals to my body telling me I'm in pain when I'm not. So I was afraid of kind of losing control in social situations and just looking like some kind of druggie. You know what I mean? And not being able to explain to anybody what was happening to me. So growing up, I thought I was dying. And I didn't tell anybody. And I kept it quiet. My best friend to this day might be able to remember. He knows. But he might be able to remember some signs that I kind of tried to keep hidden from people. Yeah. And because I remember every day we came back from lunch, I was just dying. And it was every day. And we were kids. Nobody really had an explanation for any of it. So I remember one day my dad tried to give me a haircut, but I was in the middle of like a flare up. I tried to run. And my dad is a saint. He grabbed me quickly and I felt like a serious amount of strength on me because my dad is super chill. Never gets angry. There's no reason to put his hands on anybody. No reason to go full strength or anything like that. No. My dad grabbed me and in that moment I was like, shit. I was like, I gotta explain now. So I told him, I said, look, I might have skin cancer. And they were like, what? So we went to the doctor. We went to all these different doctors. They were like, there's nothing wrong with you. Have you ever heard of fibromyalgia? Yeah. Back then, fibromyalgia wasn't widely accepted with doctors. Yeah. Now it is today. I don't have fibromyalgia because fibromyalgia includes muscle aches. So because I'm missing that symptom, they didn't diagnose me with that. But they diagnosed me with cholinergic urticaria or peripheral nervosa, which is basically it's burning sensation like a stabbing needle. I know someone with MS that experiences something like that. It's like constant pain. Yeah, and it's incredibly hard to live with. Now I don't know, and this is actually my mother. Now I don't know what kind of prescriptions she gets to help her with this. I mean, because she lives in another state and she just kind of deals with it. Herself, between her and her doctor. But one time I got her some CBD oil lotion. Yes, I've heard that and really works. Yeah, it worked miracles on her, man. So I told her, like, go ahead. I've heard about that. Because in the state where I'm from, which is where she lives, I think you can get it just in like certain amount of quantities. Yeah, whatever. It's Ohio. I don't know if it's legal down here in Florida, but I know. I'm pretty sure. I just haven't looked into it because now in today's age, you'll get to it's just a lotion, and you'll get to why it's gonna get crazy. But people have told me the story is inspirational, so you'll see towards the end of it. But so I was always just afraid of socializing, so I had a bit of a shell. I remember I went to college. There was a kid. I would say funny things, and he was just amazed at the things that would come out of my mouth. Yeah. And so he would just love to talk and interact. And then towards the end of that semester, I remember I was really struggling just to show up to class. And if I didn't want to talk to anybody, I wanted to sit in the back because I was in so much pain every day. It was killing me, and I was trying not to let anybody know. Do you know how hard it is to sit there in a desk and listen to a teacher while it feels like lava is just being injected into your veins? I remember I walked out of the class with a water bottle to just kind of do something, just to douse that heat. And I couldn't even keep my hand still for the stream of water to go into the water bottle. And so I remember the doctor was eventually like, why don't you see a psychologist or something like that? I was like, I'm not crazy. So one day, I had a flare up. My parents rushed me to the ER.
Yeah.
And by the time I would get there, the flare-ups would be gone. They only last like 15 minutes. And so your body just kind of numbs it. It just numbs it. And it goes away.
The trauma response.
Fine. Yeah. Yep. It's fine. So every time I would get to the ER, they'd be like, you look fine to me. So my dad was like, I got to do it. I got to do it. So he purposely like irritated me and purposely started like pushing me, shoving me, getting anything to spark my veins turning red and spark that reaction so that someone could see it. And we took pictures, and we finally got acknowledged by a doctor. He Googled it, found all the symptoms, found similar pictures, and he was like, yeah, this is cholinergic urticaria, basically. And so that links back to, in my personal theory, the Fight Club that I was in.
Okay.
I may have always had this issue. I don't know if I was born with it or whatever. I know that I used to like wrestle with my little brother, and we would wrestle, and when things got heated, I would feel something weird, and it was stabby, and I would have to take a cold shower, and I would leave. But it was never like a life issue until, you know what shark tanking is?
The TV show?
Shark tanking in like a martial arts community. So shark tanking it's silly, but there's one person, and then there's a ring, and then there's a line. Okay. And that one person fights each person in that line until you lose. And then the person who wins becomes the leader of the line and then fights the line. So I went through 4 fights in one day. And the very first fight, I got uppercut. And it's on video. We have video and everything. I got uppercut, didn't realize, because he's incredibly athletic dude. We would play manhunt, and this dude would be up on like power poles. Yeah. As kids, he would just climb anything that you could see in the area. He would climb it to the top. So he was small and nimble, but he was quick. And as he was bobbing and weaving through any strike you threw out, he was going to counter. So I got uppercut, didn't realize it, had him in a submission, and I realized that my blood was all over his back. And I kind of let go a little bit, and he spun around and he gave me a hook. And we called that fight off. We went another round, and I proceeded through the next fights. To keep long story short, by the 4th fight, I got uppercut again, and I started bleeding again. And this guy, we're kids, remember? He goes, yeah, of course. He goes, I'm training to be an EMT, man. Dunk your head in the pool. So I did. It was a terrible fucking idea. And so I had all this blood coming out of my nose, dunked my head in the pool, and rose up. And that like suction from the water, just pulled out this long line of dry blood. It looked like clay, like a dark crimson clay. I guess it was like cartilage or whatever. We don't have cartilage in our nose, but some kind of skin lining that obviously keeps our brains or whatever from falling out. Yeah. But I remember seeing it. It was like this long, and then the color in the trees was kind of graying a little bit, and I was like, oh shit! So my mom's gonna fucking kill me. And I never told my mom that story, so I can't let her watch this video. But they were like, yo, you need to go to 911. You need to call ER. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, don't call nobody. Color eventually started coming back to me. I think I was going into maybe like a little bit of a shock. Yeah. But I ended up ripping that long, disgusting piece of flesh. And when I did, have you ever pulled a nerve before or heard of anyone pulling a nerve before? Yeah. You shit, piss, and vomit all at the same time. So I got real warm. And so I think I did something. And so I went to the bathroom and I cleaned up. And we left all that blood on that property, by the way. That wasn't even our property. That was an abandoned property in the neighborhood. Crazy story is that it ended up being a judge's. And like for the next 2 weeks, I was terrified that somebody was going to find out whose blood that was. I don't know how much we left there. We got out of there soon because I was bleeding everywhere. It was an emergency. We left. We stopped fighting there, obviously, but my blood was everywhere. And I remember a judge had approached them in the neighborhood and was like, "You know what's going on? And this is my house." And my friends were like, "No, I don't know nothing." I was 2 weeks. I was like, they're going to do a DNA test or something. They're going to trace it back to me. Then nobody ever contacted me. I don't know how much blood I left there, but it was there. Somebody saw it, and the owner of that house ended up being a judge. Which was crazy.
So how long did you do the Fight Club thing?
4 years.
So the whole high school time.
Last 2 years of high school, and then a little bit into where I'm going to college. And I think a little bit is where I broke my shell for college.
Okay.
And I started just kind of opening up and just being me, not really caring about, whether I'm black or not.
Yeah.
I just started being me instead of trying to identify with who I was. Because as I told you, my upbringing had me just being mixed. Things were a little confusing. And so I just started being me.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to, I was about 22. I started working at one of the courthouses in Florida.
Okay.
And I started applying myself way too much to a point where I was working so hard. And we started, I don't even want to tell you the paycheck, but it was low. It was me. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give you random numbers. Okay. That way YouTube doesn't just start pulling up everybody's salary. I'm going to say we were working for $11 an hour. I was working to a point where I was going to the edge of my stamina every day. And the way that I would see it is kind of like you do when working out or martial arts or anything like that. You just keep grinding.
Yeah.
Keep grinding until you're about to pass out, and then you know your limit, and then you stop. And then every time, the next day, you can go a little bit further. You can go a little bit further, and you can go a little bit further. So my limit just kept extending to a point where I was doing so much work that everybody else wasn't doing anything. So my supervisors were telling me, they're like, "Hey, man, chill out." I was like, "No, I'm working." At first, my real mantra was, "Let me work so that they don't have to work so hard." But they were really trying to tell me "Hey, these other guys are getting real lazy." So they were like, "Seriously, we need you to chill out," because we were on camera at all times in this courthouse, and so everybody else started just standing around, and so it was creating an imbalance of workload, and everyone was getting paid the same amount. So I did this for so long, and where people can be inspired from this is I started living with the pain that I was experiencing, and I stopped letting it affect me, stopped letting it kind of hold me back socially, and I just started just pushing as hard as I can.
Yeah.
And I used to tell myself that I didn't think I was going to make it to 32. I'm 32 this year. I didn't think I was going to make it to 32 because it's so much pain. It can keep you up at night. It'll make you.
Is something you still deal with?
Yeah, I have prescription now, though. But it's something that it's like going to the bathroom to me now. It just happens. And there's ways to fix it. There's surgeries that I can take. My doctor said you can go through a surgery, find the nerve, cut the nerve, and then you won't feel it anymore. But I use it as a driving force to keep pushing forward. The only path is forward for me. So where you told me about the CBD oil, I'm like, no, don't even solve it. Let me deal with it because that pain made me who I am. That's the way I see it. It's just a part of me now. And so maybe some people that are dealing with some kind of mental illness, or not mental illness, but some kind of mental disability or something like that, can maybe use it as their driving point forward. And so with work, I would do those things to kind of prove to myself that I was alive. And that might be hard to explain, but do you get what being in the military? Do you get
Yeah.
Pushing to prove you're alive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, test your limits and
test your limits.
Kind of see where you have a ceiling.
Yeah. And so I was doing that, and I just kept pushing it. I kept pushing it. And then I remember it was really hard because anytime I was struggling, my dad would be like, "Man up."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You don't understand. This is not something that you can just man up from. It's a different kind of pain. It's not like getting punched in the face. It's a totally different kind of pain." But he was right. By increasing that limit, what I couldn't deal with back then, I'm like, give it to me today. When that pain is not around, it's weird. It's just like going to the bathroom to me. I'm so used to it. I use it as a driving force, and it helped me in my fights because I was already in pain. So whatever you could do to me was nothing compared to what I was experiencing already.
All right, so I understand you got a few hobbies though.
Yeah.
Now, one of the hobbies that you have is being a knight, like a literal knight in shining armor, like with a joust.
Yeah.
Princess Toadstool up in the castle.
Kind of like the Fight Clubs all over again.
Yeah, and you're Mario fighting the dragon. Or Luigi, whichever one you like, because you got the mustache. That's why.
Yeah,
Mario and Luigi. But anyway, so when did you actually decide to get into doing knighting, and how did that come about, bro?
So actually, it's a pretty good timeline of events. Obviously, I had to stop the Fight Club a little bit because I had injured myself. So then I started trying to find different things I could get into. So I started with bows and arrows, and then I switched on to throwing knives. I learned throwing knives, and then I started collecting swords. And I always thought of that guy, it's probably you, but that guy that's got a gun every like nook and cranny of the house.
Oh yeah.
I'm the sword guy. I'm the version of that with a sword. And moving, one of the times I was like moving around a little bit, I was literally stepping over swords because I just didn't have time to put them all away. And so I got into doing that because that was a way that I could physically test my limits without actually hurting myself. There are safety parameters in that. You do have to have gear for it. If you do HEMA, they have HEMA gear, HEMA certified gear, which is like the headgear, padding all over basically. But aside from that, what I do, I like to bring to the festivals an actual suit of armor.
Okay.
So I did some research, and I didn't want to be too historically accurate because it's Florida, and wearing gambeson and all that shit, and then a suit of armor over top of that would give me a stroke. So I learned that.
So you're saying you actually dress up like a knight and go to different places?
I'll show you some of the pictures. I'll send you some of the pictures.
Wow,
so you can maybe add it into the video or something.
That's what's up, man.
So it's actually a 70-pound suit of armor.
And question: How are you received being black and doing that?
I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
So in the suit of armor that I'm in, I learned that back in the day, being a craftsman was a lot more popular back then.
Okay.
But they put on what they could afford. Not everybody had a suit of armor. Nobles, people that were to protect other nobles or the king or something like that. Those are the royalty. Those are the ones who were in suits of armor. So if you were like regular infantry or something like that, you would have like gambeson. But some of them just they wore what they could afford.
Yeah. So
I went with the same thing. I was like, shit, it's modern day. I don't have to be historic. So I wear 6 different layers of my armor. I have padding. I have like light cloth. Then I put on another layer of cloth over top of that one. Then I put on vestments. What are they called? I gotta remember the name of what it's called. But it's a vestment. It goes all the way down. It has the coat tails. Then I put on some leather. Then I put on some of the metal, and then over top the metal, I put on my cape. So you'll see it in the picture. It's a pain in the ass to take care of because you have to polish the metal every time you go because there's a lot of dirt and there's a lot of rust. And so when you put on that suit, which answers your question, when you put on that armor, almost every bit of my skin is covered.
Yeah.
So no one even really knows that you're black out there. So you get this thing where when I go and I have friends that are already there, they call me and they're like, hey, yo, let's meet up over here. And I walk. When you walk there, everyone stops you. And when you're in like some kind of get up, everyone dresses up.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to take pictures. It's a community. So I get stopped every 20 feet. And they're like, hey, can we take pictures? And I'll take the helmet off, and they don't treat me any different than not knowing that I was black. And
that's cool.
There's not a lot of black gentlemen out there.
Yeah.
But when there are, you see them, and they just blend right in. Everybody gets it. It's bike is a lot of Viking. I don't know if it's due to the Netflix show, but there's a lot of Viking influence out there. And so it's a lot of Nordic stuff and Norse. But there's a lot of knights, and you do see occasional. There's some black people out there, and they just hang around. No one treats them any different, and it's amazing. It's really amazing. Everyone treats me as if I'm family. They're comfortable giving me their number so I can exchange pictures. You'll get a lot of numbers out there. And so it's a really good time. It's, like Comic-Con, when you go to Comic-Con, they say like, oh, everyone's family, everyone's comfortable with taking pictures with them and all that. It's just like that. Everyone's together. Everyone's there for the same thing.
That's awesome, man.
So I never felt any different, except I guess maybe during my competitions. Just like that church.
Yeah.
Everyone just moving in slow motion.
So how do you incorporate the principles of knighthood into your daily life and training?
Oh man, I don't know if I was prepared for that question. That's a good question. So how do I apply the knight chivalry, basically?
Pretty much, yeah.
So,
or whatever other principles of being a knight. Like,
I'm sure. Man, that's a good question. I wish you had given me that before this interview, because I might actually be able to give you a really good answer later on. All right. So there's some good stuff here. Let me get my mind together. But the way that you learn the art of martial arts can be applied to life.
Okay.
So you have two sides of martial arts. You have the actual art, which often is taught in dojos, and they'll teach you about the spirituality and the art of whatever you're trying to learn. And then you have HEMA groups, which is historical European martial arts. So HEMA groups, they give you like a sword manual, and you just kind of study what the techniques are, and then you can spar. And what happens in HEMA groups is they don't really teach you what to do. You use what works.
Yeah.
And so some techniques get thrown out, and then other ones are like, this is working, let's do this. So they'll do class, and they'll do an open gym. And then so you'll go back and forth, and everyone exchanges what works. Now, how to apply this to your daily life?
So let me get this straight. You said HEMA as in like historically European martial arts. So Europe had a martial art?
That it refers to like sword fighting back in the day.
Okay, I'm tracking.
So like how they fought with sword, like a long sword techniques.
I got you.
Like Mordhau is one of them. The murder stroke is wielding the blade from the blade actually, and striking the helmet with the handle, the pommel.
Oh, okay.
And so it just teaches you basically what they did back in the day.
Okay, I got you. I'm tracking.
So where you were asked, how do you apply it to everyday life? So you can easily apply it to how you stand, your footwork, your general footwork, your general posture when sitting, when standing, when walking, how to talk to people, how to address to people, respect. Martial arts humbles you very quickly. And one of the gentlemen in my fight club actually has gone on to be a world champion. His name, I will say his business. I'm gonna actually shout out to him. Shameless shout out here, because I don't think he'll mind. But it's actually called Hamilton Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
And he was a part of my fight club, so he can tell you some of those stories. And I never fought him personally, but it's really cool to know that somebody went on to be a BJJ world champion.
Yeah, that's what's up.
And he's the one that first told me that that stuff humbles you in your everyday life. You just become very respectful, calm, and confident. So you can apply that to your everyday life. And if you want to be a little cheesy, a little cliche, chivalry. Open the door, lead the way, provide for your family, be respectful, stuff like that.
So how do you envision your continued growth and development in the realms of knighthood and self-defense?
Man, how do I plan to continue my development? So every year or so, I learn a new weapon, right? So I told you I do bows and arrows, throwing knives, swords.
Okay.
I like to study one that's kind of impractical. It's Kinjutsu. It has 2 swords.
I have actually heard of this. Yeah,
I like Kenjutsu. It's taught more so in dojos than Hema. Hema's European, so Kenjutsu would be Eastern.
Okay.
I like to bring that over to Hema.
Okay.
And at the Renaissance festivals and Mid-Florida. You ever met the Mid-Florida guy that comes in to do the bank transfers?
I have not. Oh, yeah.
Paco. I got him to come out, and I'll send you a video. We did a sparring match, and it's good. It was good. I loved it. We had a great time. We did 2, actually, but I'm only going to send you the 1 because I won. But no, it was a great time.
Yeah.
And as far as self-defense, the color codes of awareness, those are things that you can apply to everyday life. Yeah. Even when you're carrying or not carrying, you should be paying attention to your surroundings. So the first color code is white. That's when you're not aware of anything. Your head's in your phone. You're crossing the street.
Yep.
You have no idea who's around you.
Yep.
Orange, you're a little alert. Hey, there's a guy over there. He's got a hoodie. He's kind of looking my way. He's about 60 yards away. Maybe I should kind of just walk the other direction. Those are things that you can apply everyday life. And you have after yellow, orange. That dude has taken 3 left turns.
I knew you mixed it at first, but I know what you were saying.
Yeah, that dude's taken 3 left turns. He's following me. Maybe I should take action. Maybe I should get on the phone, ask, is there anyone that could pick me up or something for whatever situation I'm in? Find a store that I can walk into and make sure that I'm around other people, because this guy in that hoodie is interested in something about me. That whole saying, you take 3 left turns and he's still behind you, he's following you, that. And then the last code of awareness is red, and that's taking action, the fight or flight response.
Definitely.
So actually, what leads into the next one that I'll talk about is, I've told you before, I was attacked 4 years ago.
Yeah, what happened with
on
that?
the job. And so this is where the fight or flight response and those color codes of awareness kind of come in. So 4 years ago, it was in June. It was 4:23 p.m. No, sorry. I used to clock out at 4:23. It was 4:17. And there was riots outside.
Okay.
And so we were aware.
Around the 2020 riot area?
Yes.
Was that like a big deal down here?
Yes.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I know it was up north for sure.
We had to leave at the backside of the building. Usually it was advised.
They were like right in front?
Right in front. It was peaceful. Yeah. But they were the LE was still like, maybe you guys in uniform should go out the other entrance. So we did. Yeah, for sure. And so there was the next day after the riots were kind of calming down, there was one gentleman that kind of stayed around. He was doing cartwheels and sit-ups all day. It was weird. The cameras were watching him. They were aware of his presence. He walked in at 4:17, 6 minutes before I was supposed to clock out. And our supervisor at the time was like, "Sir, this building is closed." So we closed at 4 during COVID. Yeah. Got him right in the face. I saw blood, and we work with firearms. So I see him making sure the gentleman doesn't disarm him. So he's in a fight or flight response of protecting himself. Yeah. And he's a little shocked and a little stunned. He just got punched in the face. We've been working here for 7 to 10 years. Nothing's really ever happened at that level. And I'm cleaning because we had to wipe down everything. I'm in the back on the cameras. I'm cleaning. I'm spraying things. I actually did not have a firearm at this time. And so I'm cleaning. I'm looking at what's going on, and my fight or flight response kicks in. Thankfully, I was already familiar with the fight or flight response from just being in my pseudo armor. Having that person in front of you that can strike at any moment, and then my Fight Club history. So my process wasn't one of fear. It was one of legality. What's happening here, and what do I do? So I'm like, this is self-defense. He's been struck. I see him bleeding. He's got a firearm. He could be disarmed at any time. Yeah, definitely. So I stepped in, and thanks to some of that experience, I put up a helmet guard. I took one of his hooks. I kept my chin tucked. I do remember him hitting me in the face. And I remember, you ever seen one of those like Ryan Reynolds movies where they're like, "Hey, I bet you wonder how we got here." All time froze. And I remember saying to myself, I said it twice, I just got punched in the face. And I remember going, I just got punched in the face. And then your instincts just kick in right there. My body went into autopilot. I wrapped my arm around his torso. I picked him up and I hip tossed him. But because there was 3 people fighting in one little area, I remember on the way down, I hit my head on like some barriers.
Mm-hmm.
I hit my head on 2 of them, and then I got a strawberry from the carpet. So I had a nice little scar there on the side of my head when I brought him down. And I remember it kind of shook me a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and it might resonate with you. But when they pulled me off of him
mm-hmm.
to handcuff him, he said, "We were supposed to be brothers," and that haunted me. That he was mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out. I'll send you the article,
mm-hmm.
but that haunted me because he really thought that I had betrayed him in that moment.
Yeah,
and just the look in his eyes, I think I struggled to sleep for like 3 days. And then I was like, but he's attacking people, So that was another thing, like back with my childhood, that I had to really kind of process.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an event. I was a hero for about 2 days until no one cared anymore. But it was cool, man. I was walking around the building, and everybody's like, "What's up, Chris?" I'm like, "I don't know who you are, but what's up?" And it was great. Everybody knew who I was for like 2 days.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
The next thing,
I remember people telling me about that story. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah. And so working here, I don't know if you know how I ended up in the position that I'm in now. As you said, I'm a supervisor.
Mm-hmm. No, we talk. I know you're a supervisor.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we talk. The camera.
Okay.
We're on camera. Yeah.
So I used to be unarmed.
Yeah.
And because you got a lot of heroes on your channel, I'm not a hero. I don't have a combat MOS.
Mm-hmm.
So I only have like the educational portion of things. Mm-hmm. So I was denied a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
And after that event, I got my USCCA concealed carry certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And the deputies that watch us all day, they have our background checks. I'm sure they run them for fun.
Mm-hmm.
They were just watching me for 7 years, work myself to the bone. I always said, "Hey, can we present getting me a firearm to the deputies and see if they'll, let me do it?" And nobody ever wanted to entertain it, but we had Nathan, if you remember him,
mm-hmm.
and he finally took that to them. Those deputies, they actually they pulled me aside. It was the lieutenant and the captain.
Yeah.
They pulled me aside one day into a private room, and they're like, "Hey, man, we'll just hire you." And I was like, "Nah, I can't do that because my current job needed me." They were really understaffed. It was a period of time where if I had left, I just think it would have caused a lot of problems for the team.
Yeah.
So
they were giving you an opportunity to be a law,
I turned it down, and that struck him. That amazed him. It didn't offend him. I hope it didn't offend him.
Yeah.
That amazed him. And
you should ask him if that offer's still on the table.
I know, right? That amazed him, and that I said no.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Nathan went to him, they had their meetings. Corporate was like, "No, we don't want to do it." That position, you can work with a firearm at other posts, but this one is a law enforcement post.
Mm-hmm.
So the weight of it was serious.
Mm-hmm.
And CPOs were supposed to be elite, was what corporate was saying. They were like, "No, he can't do it. He's not one of the elites." And so I think it took me about a year of them having meetings. And eventually Nathan came down and said, "Look, I got the captain to sign a contract for you." And that contract amended my ability I got a firearm.
Yeah.
And then the right things came into place. The last 2 supervisors ended up moving on to something. I think they opened up other posts that were better opportunities for them.
Mm-hmm.
They went to them, and then supervisor slot became available for me. And it was crazy because it was unanimous. The deputies were like, "That's his job." And I ended up getting it. It was crazy. So again,
that's awesome,
just
man.
Work, even if it's not your job.
Mm-hmm.
When I had that fight, people were like, "That's not your job." And I was like, "But that was the right thing to do." But I had so much resistance. They're like, "That's not your job." But I've always worked with a mentality of just do it. If you can do it, just do it. And it got me to where I am today. So for any kind of inspiration, people can use that, whether it's your job or not, whether you're qualified or not. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, bro. That's what's up, man. So what challenges have you faced on your path to becoming proficient in self-defense, man? Techniques.
What challenges have I faced? Mm-hmm. So obviously I'm left-handed and everything's more expensive when you're left-handed.
And the reason why I'm asking that question is because, obviously you got the USCCA clothing on and you briefly touched it just in this last story.
Mm-hmm.
So self-defense is kind of the direction I'm moving in with this first question. And then we're going to get into the USCCA stuff.
So one more time. Give me the question one more time. What challenges have I faced?
Absolutely. And becoming more proficient in your self-defense techniques.
So I just went straight into, so I looked up what I could do to further myself, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a website, the company, USCCA, they offer you classes, coursework. So I took those classes, but instead of doing 1, 2, and 3, I took one singular class that was all of them. Yeah. And it was $1,200, $1,400.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, shit, man, this is a lot at once. I kind of jumped straight into everything, but I just moved with confidence, and I studied so much that I'm a good test taker.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to waste $1,200. And you only had one chance. And this instructor called me. He's like, yo, we're doing FBI level like certification. He's like, you're going to have to shoot at FBI level. And I was like, shit, I'm just doing statewide G license courses and they're not really like that. They're making sure I pass. Like, this dude's going to take my money. So I had to go home every day at the end of work, take my my issued firearm and unholster it. I did 50 to 100 repetitions a day. Okay. Just unholstering and drawing. And that's a workout, by the way.
Can be, absolutely.
Oh my God.
To properly remove your weapon from the holster, absolutely, and draw and be on target.
You would never imagine. It took me a while to work up to 100 reps. That did not happen. I think I did 25, took a break, and then did another 25, and then I was like, all right, that's enough. Yeah. So I had to do that every single day, and then I had to study to the point where I would use somebody else, teach them, and then have it teach it back to me. And if they were teaching it back to me, I knew they were correct. So then I knew I was correct because they're correct. Yeah. So I had to already be comfortable with teaching. Yeah. Because I knew that was where I was going to end up.
Trying to become your own dummy.
So I remember I went and we all shot. I had a class of 4, which is a small class, but again, it's a $1,200 class. I don't know if there's supposed to be a lot of people that are in those classes. And everybody failed, but me. It was crazy. And
that's awesome.
One of the guys, it was a domino effect because one guy, he started crying. And hopefully he doesn't watch this video. But he broke down. He failed in the shooting section. I barely made it, but I made it through the state. I didn't make it through his. So he's like, you're going to have to come back. He's like, technically through this company, you made it. But he's like, but I made it harder. He's like, I made it FBI. So now you got to come back. So I was like under a weird technicality where he was going to make me come back. But everybody else didn't even make it through the company's requirements. Yeah. And so they broke down and it turned into something the instructor probably wasn't proud of. I know about that. And everybody else, he was like, all right, you guys want to go to lunch? And so nobody else came back with me. And I was like, are we even going to be able to finish this course? He's like, yeah, you're going to teach me. And I was like, fuck, man. It was nerve-wracking. That class, it was 3 days. That was the hardest part of my life ever, I think. I didn't want to finish. I was so over it. It was because they mess with your mind. Because you got to shoot under pressure. You got to shoot in the fight or flight response. So he purposely fucked with you. During class, he purposely heckled. He would purposely do everything he can to throw you off your game. He asked me, he said, hey, are you familiar with the legal use of force? I'm like, yeah, we can talk about that. Let me go over that slide. He goes, nah, we're going to talk about one that you're not good at. I'm like, fuck, man. So I went through that, and I remember I got halfway through the FBI level course. And I remember I sent a picture to my fiance because he had to step off for a minute. I'm like, I'm making it. I'm about to make this. Yeah. And when he came back, the very next course obstacle that I had to complete, I completely butchered it. I think it was like 7 rounds, 3 seconds, and I think I hit 1. And he's like, you can miss one more shot. And I'm like, nah, I fucked up, and I'm about to lose this $1,200. And so the last one that I had to do was like 20 yards, shoot 4 rounds, kneel, shoot another 4, reload, and then holster up, and then, halt, put everything away and stop, all in like 15 seconds or something like that. And I remember he's like, you can miss one more shot. He's like, you better go. And I just did it. I didn't care, didn't put any thought into it. I just released myself and shot, and I made it. We counted those shots. He's like, you passed. And I remember those instructors were like, you got a talent. And it was incredible.
That's awesome, man. So that was your USCCA certification. Yeah. Was that to become an instructor?
Yes.
So technically, you are an instructor that can teach shooting techniques. What's the menu that you have to offer the people?
I can teach basically legal use of force.
Okay.
Home defense and self protection plan.
Okay.
That's cool because you can kind of go over what you do in the event of an emergency at home. Mm-hmm. Gear and gadgets, basic pistol, which is like shooting, a grip, stance, footwork, isosceles, stance, reaver stance. I can teach, there's 7 different lessons, and I can either go with you online, one by one, or you can take the whole class. If you do the class, it's 4 hours. You get an hour of range time, and then I can give you a certificate for your CCW. And we actually, my very first student got hers in 3 weeks.
That's awesome, man.
I haven't checked up with everybody else to see if they got theirs. I should, but 3 weeks is an impressive time, and that was really cool because she works with me. And I got to see her go through the class, take the certificate, and get her license. It's very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And the reason why I had you kind of expand on this is because obviously, you know, you watch the show. Others that watch the show were military, law enforcement, and survival. And obviously, you know, you didn't do the military, and you had an opportunity in law enforcement. Hopefully that door has not closed. We're going to knock on wood that you go through it. But you're definitely doing survival. And survival isn't just about, you know, shooting or like hunting or camping and stuff like that. But it's also the self-defense aspect. And you're giving people an opportunity to learn the techniques and strategies to be able to be more proficient in their own self-defense. So I also know, I mean, you talking about being a knight. I also know that you like edge weapons because you said you step all over swords and blades and all kinds of stuff at home. So, man, what kind of edge weapons do you deal with, and how did you get involved in that?
All right, so I'm gonna hurt. I mean, I don't know your audience. I don't know if they're big nerds, but I'm gonna hurt some fans.
Some of us are closet nerds like myself.
I'm gonna hurt some fans' feelings about the Eastern weaponry.
Okay.
So the katana, you see it in media, you samurai weaponry and stuff like that. That's my favorite sword, right? That's my favorite blade profile, but it's not that great. Unfortunately, the longsword, the European side of things, their longsword being double-edged means you can beat up one side of the blade, you have a whole other side of the blade, whereas the katana, when you beat up that one single side of the edge, your weapon's done.
So katana is only sharp on one side?
It's only sharp on one side.
Wow, I did not know that.
The other spine is completely flat. It's very thick, but it's completely flat. And so every single deflect or parry that you do is damaging the edge of that blade.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, what they don't know about swords, armor is designed with a curvature that completely deflects the edge.
Okay.
So a sword is honestly, it's not going to do anything to someone in a suit of armor like me.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything. Obviously, when you spar, they take my swords away when we spar, and they give us certified safe weapons.
Okay.
They're usually either like really dull, and if they're metal, you have to make sure you have the certified gear to even perform. If not, it's going to be like some kind of high premium foam or something like that.
Yeah,
but there is metal fencing that you can do in HEMA groups, and you have to make sure you're in the safe kind of gear.
Oh, okay, awesome, man.
Other than that, I like knives.
Yeah,
so
that's a fact.
I have this one in my pocket here. It's funny because I collect a lot of knives, right? And I collect knives within like the $300 range, and I don't use any of them. I don't cut with any of them. Anytime I need something sharp, I use this. It's about $17. My dad at this point always calls me knife guy. He's like, "You always got a knife on you. Where's your knife?" I will not use my $300 knives. And man, there's a lot of scams in that market too, by the way. But I have knives that you've probably never seen in stores. I didn't bring them in today, but I probably got some really cool stuff that you probably didn't even know existed.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
I used to, before when we were in uniform, we had to shave. We had to be clean shaven. Hair off the collar, hair off the ears kind of thing. I used to not want to use razors anymore. And so, crazy enough, I learned that sharpening a knife at a 10-degree angle is the same sharpness as a razor. And I could just resharpen that knife. And it's harder to resharpen a razor because it's in a safety housing, right?
Yeah.
So I would just sharpen this knife to 10 degrees, and I would literally shave with it. I didn't have to use shaving cream. I didn't have to go to Walmart and buy $10 4-pack razors.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do nothing. I would just resharpen this knife every 3 months.
Wow, man. So let me see. Do you know any edge weapon defense training, or
I know an instructor that does it. Unfortunately, I don't. But maybe with your question where you said, how do I plan to continue my development?
Yeah.
I like to learn new weapons. So maybe what I'll do is try and see if I can be an instructor not just for CCWs, but for knife defense. There is knife defense, and the number one thing they're all going to tell you is don't. Run. I can tell you that right now. I'm not even certified. They're all going to tell you run. Because you're going to go to the hospital, but you may go alive. You're not going to come out of a self-defense situation where it's going to work like a drill. You're going to drill all day for some technique, and shit happens. What if it goes wrong? You get one fuck up.
Yeah.
And then you're dead on the ground bleeding. Run. Just run. That's one of the things they teach you in the CCW course. If you have an obligation to escape, go. Run.
Yeah.
If there's no reason for you to engage that gentleman, if it is not your last hope, don't use your firearm. Run. Leave. There's no reason. Because you can get sued by the family and you need insurance for that, or you can miss. You hit somebody behind the person you're trying to hit, the target, which is one of the safety rules, by the way. You're supposed to know what's behind your target and beyond it.
Absolutely. I think that's the first rule of firearm safety. First
rule.
Yep.
And there's so many things that could go wrong, so you have an obligation to escape. If you are able to escape, go. And it's the same with knives. It's the same with any self-defense situation that you're going to get into. The first thing they're going to tell you, whether I'm certified to tell you this or not, is run.
So, are you able to share a memorable success story from your experiences as a self-defense expert?
I guess when I was attacked at the courthouse, that would be... I wasn't an instructor at the time, though. No, I'm a pretty new instructor, so I haven't really... I haven't had any situations where I've had to use it, which is good. You really don't. I have an attorney in my pocket. I pay for the insurance, and I'm glad that I've never had to use it. That's a good thing. That's actually the best case scenario. It means I'm paying attention to my surroundings.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going in the right paths. I'm staying out of the alleys. That right there is, to me, the answer to the question that I have not had to use it. Is I go to Walmart. I pack in Walmart. I'm carrying in the movie theater, and every time I remind Diane, I say, by the way, this is not coming out. That's a good thing. Every time we come out of that store, and I don't have to take my weapon out. That's a success.
That's awesome, man. So, can you share any specific training regimens or routines that are instrumental in your development with being a firearm instructor?
Okay. Yeah, I have some good stuff for that. I kind of looked at what some of the other people do, and then I kind of strayed away from what everybody else does. Just do what works for you. But it gave me an idea, and often I would like to. They're on Palmetto State Armory. Shout out, by the way, sponsor me. Palmetto State Armory has bundles of ammo.
I'm a huge fan of Palmetto State. I have an AR built platform.
Me too. Yeah.
Now, really, not Palmetto Armory. I got my shell from y'all, but the guts came from everywhere else. So
I think I ended up changing the parts as well.
Originally, it was Palmetto Armory, but yeah, I definitely switched out and swapped a lot of different things.
I did too. I still have my own parts.
It still says Palmetto Armory, but it's a Ferrari under the hood. So
I rebuilt mine for lefties.
Okay.
So
yeah, you are a lefty.
Yeah. Which helps in a lot of different ways, but again, it's more expensive to buy anything lefty. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
So I take those 200 round bundles and I would go to the range. And what you want to do is when there's other people at the range, is you want to make sure you're shooting farther than them.
Yeah.
So whatever range they're at, just take a quick eyeball it. I want to shoot better than Joe Public. I'm an instructor. I need to be able to shoot. And you've seen my shots.
Yeah,
I know you commented on Facebook.
Pretty good tight group.
I've shown some instructors. They're like, damn. So actually, that instructor there, it was a deputy.
But everybody has a palm-sized group right up on the target.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That grouping was up to 20 yards.
Okay, that's not bad, man.
So I'll show you the picture so you can put it in there. Mm-hmm. So that instructor there told me, because he's like, oh man, you got a max score. He's like, what can you do to push that grouping back out? He said, what are you doing wrong here? Because I had my instructor hat on. He knew I was an instructor. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I was qualifying. He's like, yeah, but what are you doing wrong? And so I waited for his answer. He said, you need to shoot faster. Because by shooting faster, now you're challenging yourself. That grouping is going to go from this to you're going to start making mistakes.
Yeah, because you won't have the same reactionary time for the muzzle flip.
Everybody can sit there and shoot at a target and reset and follow up.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to move and shoot, and you got to be able to shoot quick.
That's a fact.
So you got to be better than Joe Public. So he told me, he said, look, stop making perfect shots.
Yeah.
And he said, start challenging yourself. Start doing things that purposely messes up your aim so you know how to correct it. So that was what I'm going to go to next. Because that outdoor ranges, you can shoot a little bit faster than indoor. So I'm going to start taking myself and I'm going to start shooting faster.
Yeah, that's what's up.
So, but with the classes, what ultimately we want to do, the ultimate goal, and I probably should have started with that, but you want to create a safe environment with gun safety. People need to be aware that that's a weapon, and that weapon can take someone's life at any moment.
Absolutely.
So there's no fucking around with it. Every weapon, whether it's plastic or not, if it's got a trigger, it's treated as a real weapon.
Definitely.
So that's basically what I do is I take people, I introduce them to guns. Another really important one is that you should always have one in the chamber, and you should be comfortable with that.
Most definitely.
You should absolutely be comfortable with that.
Most definitely. Like, I know that there have been a lot of studies, guys, because in law enforcement, you learn about the 21-foot rule, and a person can be up on you in 21 feet in less than a second. And what people don't realize with the study, it's like a video study that they videotaped it for people to watch. But the study basically said that, and it all boiled down to that one's action time will always be faster than your reactionary time. Yeah. And it's like a 10%. It's like it's not even close. It's like 10 times faster. Like if I decide I want to strike you, you know, your body has to first see me posture.
It's like 200 milliseconds.
Yeah, it has to see me posture, square off, movement of the shoulders, movement of the arms, and then decide what am I going to do with this coming, especially if it's like a sneak attack. And most incidents where you have to use your weapon are sneak attacks. So the first lesson, I guess, would be to make sure that you're situationally aware of what's going on. And yeah, definitely. So I forget where I was going with that, but it definitely ties into to what you were just saying. And you know, you're going to go back and forth, firearms and now edge weapons. So what kind of, yeah, man, because this is, I mean, you're the first person that I have on the show that has, I don't want to call it, it's not even a fetish anymore at this point. It's a passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
For edge weapons. And the only reason why I can say that is because I've had the conversations with you, and we've talked about different knives. I'm not really a knife guy, but I have some understanding of edge weapons, and like man, like you've gone further. And when I say edge weapons, like a lot of people's intelligence or knowledge of that would just stop at knives, man. But you're talking about, bro, yeah.
And Hollywood was very wrong.
Axes. You've talked about spears, like basically just a lot of different kind of, like man, that's your world. So what kind of what drives the passion for mastering the edge weapon skills, bro? I mean, I know you're doing the knighthood thing. Is that really is that it, or is it just something that you into?
It's a passion, like you just said, and I like to commit to edged weapons when I know they're not as practical as some other weapons.
Yeah.
So, like you said, like the knowledge thing, right? I'm going to kind of nerd out here, but Hollywood's wrong. Okay. And you have those duels between knights where the guy cuts the other guy's arm off with a sword.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. The sword also doesn't go on the back. It's on just like a firearm. It's on your shoulders. If it's not shoulders. It's on your hip, waist. If it's too large for your waist, it's on your horse. You can't draw a sword from your back. If you do, you're sitting there, you're grabbing the bottom down here, you're making sure it leaves and putting it back. It's not practical. Could you create some kind of specialized holster or sheath where you can guide the blade out? Yeah, you could, but back in the day, we're talking, they didn't have that. So that's wrong. Arrow quivers, they don't go on the back, they go on your waist, just like a firearm. So when you have a quiver, it's equipped to your waist.
So a quiver is basically like it's like a dump bag.
Just like a dump bag. Yep, on a duty belt. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. I remember I went to the archery range.
Yeah.
Before I put it on my back, I saw everybody else's and I was like, oh shit. And I quickly strapped it to my waist like I knew what I was doing.
And fake it till you make it, baby.
Yeah. And so I was like, yep. But when I walk around as a knight, I get a lot of praise for wearing my stuff correctly. People, they're like, yeah, I'm glad. Thank you for wearing your sword correctly.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean with the katana, you see it in Hollywood where sometimes on the waist you see the blade edge down, right? The blade is up when you have it on your waist. And the reason for that being is when you walk, the blunt edge of the spine is bouncing and jiggling. If the blade is up, the blade is protected from being dulled.
Oh, makes sense. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a lot. Armor, swords, armor, they don't mix. Spears. Spear is king, reach is king. So I love my swords. I commit to my swords even if I know I'm going to lose. A lot of the times if you go to the festival and you start sparring, you start challenging those instructors.
Yeah. The
first thing they're going to grab is a pole arm. And you're going to say, man, why do you always use that? And they're going to say, I like to win. That's the practicality of things.
Yeah.
You can't get in. It's impossible to get in with such a short weapon unless you throw it. If you throw it, you're left without a weapon.
Yeah.
And if they have armor, that throw it's not gonna put them down. Humans are surprisingly resilient. So the sword, the blade, the edge, those aren't designed to pierce armor. They're designed to cut flesh. In a duel, all you have to do is get the other guy to start bleeding. Yeah. He'll bleed out. So that's why they have to go through the vulnerable areas where like the joints are. But when you see somebody's arm or something like that get cut off, that's not how that works. Every weapon has a different purpose. Swords are kind of ceremonial. They're for like their ceremonies.
Yeah.
Show. It's like a sidearm. If you're indoors, you would use a sword, something like that. But if you're on the battlefield, it's most likely going to be a pole arm or a spear. Spear is king.
All right. So, what advice do you have for someone interested in learning about self-defense and edge weapons like yourself?
I don't want to give YouTube. YouTube was a fantastic resource for me. I actually started just finding a YouTuber that liked knives and they collect. There's a guy out there that gives his Metal Complex, shout out, sponsor me. I used to do his giveaways a lot. I never fucking want to give away, but he gives away like $300 knives all the time.
Yeah.
People ship him knives and he'll sharpen them for you. I got into sharpening from just doing that, and you learn the lingo and how things work through that, what to look for when you're buying a knife. So if you give me a knife at a price range of like $50, I'm going to tell you that's a mall ninja knife, or I'm going to tell you that's a gas station knife. But if you're showing me a knife from, let's say, SIG, if they sell a knife, they usually sell them pretty good, like an EDC. Might be like $100. $100 range might be something serious for somebody that's interested in getting it. You should start looking at about the $100 range. Anything less than that is really just utility, garage work, boxes. But if you want something survival, $100 and up.
Okay.
Titanium knives, they're lightweight, they're not going to break, they're so well put together, they're detents, their draw speed, all those things you probably didn't even know about, but I'm gonna bring in a couple knives for you, and you're gonna say, holy shit, it's way different.
Yeah.
Way different world when you start holding a $300 quality knife. Then I learned they go up in the thousands.
Yeah.
There's a Higo Rocksteady with a mirror finish, $1,000. I wouldn't buy that. That's too much. But that's a beautiful knife.
That's awesome, man. So how about with the self-defense?
Self-defense. I would highly recommend BJJ. Okay. It's very practical. That's something you can absolutely use in your everyday life.
That's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, you good.
It's the art of folding clothes while people are still in them. And again, I got a shout out for Hamilton Jiu-Jitsu there. He just started his own company. He's maybe been doing it for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
I want to bring him into my class one day because CCW and self-defense, they kind of go together. So if I can get him to, speak for my class for about an hour, that'd be great. I'm gonna see if I can get him out there and do that. But I'll send you the link.
Yeah, that's cool.
Those are things you can use in your everyday life. And you know what he tells me when he trains, and it gives him so much confidence. He tells me whenever he sees somebody smoking or anything like that, he's like, that guy's not a threat to me because his stamina is shot from smoking. He's like, I don't even worry about these people. So he walks into a room and he knows. He just knows. He ain't even worry about nothing. So
let me see. Basically, closing. Is there any way? Because I know you're an instructor and you have classes that you teach. Is there any way that the people can get up with you, man? I'll make sure I put your links in the video.
Yeah, I have a business card. I'll give you the link. I'll give you the business card. The business card has a QR code.
Cool.
And that QR code will direct you to my profile.
We'll put it on the screen.
I am newer. I've only been doing it here and there. I can do private classes. They can be done online as well.
Okay.
The course, what's good about the course is in some courses you can kind of skip through and just answer tests.
Yeah.
This course, you have to stay there for the whole slide until that slide is done.
Yeah.
And there's usually another instructor in the videos. He goes through the videos and he talks. You can do all of that, and then they're going to give you a mini certificate, but that one won't give you your CCW. You have to take a live fire range course.
Yeah.
So you have to at least spend an hour with me at a live fire range, and then I can sign you off. But there's way. I mean, if they're not like a Florida audience member, I don't know if I can help them there.
Well, I do know
if they're
that
in Florida, they can come see me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. So when you get a concealed carry permit, this is my law enforcement days kicking in. That there's a thing called reciprocity, and reciprocity. So like Florida is good in a lot of states. I think it's one of the concealed carry permits. Even though the state of Florida now, if you live here, technically you don't need a concealed carry permit anymore.
Yes, actually.
Okay.
I that's one of the first things I'm honest about when the class starts. Yeah, I honestly, before people even sign up for the class, before you give me any money, I tell you, by the way, you don't really need this, right? But there is a reason.
There is a reason. So if you ever travel, if you ever go anywhere, you definitely need that concealed carry permit, because even though concealed carry, what they call constitutional carry, which isn't the same constitutional carry as like where I'm from in Ohio, where you can just open carry, whatever, conceal. But here, the concealed carry of constitutional carry applies to people in the state, and I believe only residents of the state. But if you are visiting this state and you want to carry concealed, I think you'd have to have a concealed carry permit issued by this state. And also, if you travel to another state that this state has reciprocity to, that is good enough to go and use as well.
So through the USCCA app, they actually have something called the reciprocity map. I said that whole word.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's all
but they have a map, and as you travel the states, it tells you everything. It's actually really good.
That's awesome.
I have it on my phone. It's a really good app.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So yeah, I'll put your information on the screen though. But go ahead.
So what I like to tell people. It's a perfect example, and I love it because I bought my father a gun. The years always change. As time's flying, man. I'm young. I bought a gun for my father maybe 5 years ago, right?
Okay. What'd you get him?
It was a Smith & Wesson, a Sky.
Smith & Wesson Sky?
SCCY, something.
Oh, no, that's not Smith.
That's Smith & Wesson.
That's not Smith.
I'm going to show you.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's a Smith & Wesson, I promise.
A Sky?
Yeah.
It's not Smith.
SCCY, but I don't know what the numbers are. It's been a long time.
It's not Smith.
I'm gonna show you. I swear.
Cool. I know.
I'm gonna bring it up.
It's all good.
I'm gonna bring it up. Whatever I bought him, I'll bring up. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's a Smith.
It's actually a Sky is its own company. It's not Smith. So like Smith & Wesson would be like an M&P.
Okay.
Or, like they used to have Sigma.
I'm gonna find it for you.
Okay.
So I apologize. It's been a while.
Or SDV, yeah.
It's been a while. He's never shot it.
Yeah, okay.
And I've never shot it either. Yeah, I take my SIG. I like my SIG. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of lawsuits around the P320 right now too.
Yeah,
a lot of controversy.
I'm not too much of a fan of the P320. The last agency I was with in Virginia, we went from the P229. It was chambered in 357 SIG, which was kind of weird. But we went from that to the P320, still stayed with SIG, 9mm. I was happy that we went from 357 SIG to 9mm because that was just a high-powered 9mm to me, the 357. To a 9mm that was I mean what everybody else used caliber-wise, but and what I was more accustomed to. But I just wasn't a fan of the 320, man. I'm a Glock guy.
Really?
Yeah, but and all the other agencies around where they all carried Glocks, which was strange to me. Like if we ever got into an issue where we needed to, mutual aid assistance, and I needed to borrow a magazine or something, it just wouldn't happen because we have two different platforms. But go ahead.
So before I get to my perfect example of why you should get a concealed carry.
Yeah.
So I have something. We work with a Glock, Glock 17. And I have the P320.
Okay.
When I qualified, I chose the Glock.
Okay.
And it's funny because the difference between the two weapons, the Glock is lighter, and its draw was the handling was better. So I needed to be. I was on like a shot timer, a shot clock. I had like 3 seconds to make a certain amount of shots. Most of my issues weren't making those shots. It was the draw time.
Yeah.
Man, when I first started, I would draw, I would start aiming, and I would hear beep, beep, and I'd be like, why is that thing beeping twice, man? And they'd be like, you're out of time. And I was like, oh, shit. So that's when I went home. I started doing 50 reps. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, that's 3 seconds? Because if you go to the statewide G license course, what do? They say, all right, 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Nah, man, a shot clock is like beep, beep. It doesn't cut you any slack. And I was like, why is that thing always... I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
I hadn't even started shooting yet. And they were like, you're out of time. I'm like, fuck. So, I actually... And kind of like Call of Duty. Have you played Call of Duty?
Yeah.
You know how the different guns have different stats? I got to see that because the P320 I'm a lot more accurate with.
Okay.
So when I requalified, those shots were with the P320.
Okay.
But when I qualified, it was with the Glock. I'm a lot more accurate with the P320, but it's heavier.
Okay.
My handling with that is worse.
Okay.
But with the Glock, my draw speed and aim acquisition is way faster. So there's nice little differences there. And I got to see how there's like stats like Call of Duty. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. All right. So
perfect example. Let me get to that real quick.
Shoot.
So I bought my gun, the SCCY, whether it's a Smith & Wesson or not. I swear. Anyway, I bought it for him, and he's never used it. It's been like 5 years.
Okay.
So now you're telling me he can go and take that gun out and conceal carry it. He doesn't know anything about level 1, 2, 3 holsters. He doesn't know how to carry it. He doesn't know how to conceal it. He doesn't know what's acceptable, how much printing it's going to cause.
Yeah.
You're telling me he can just go out to Walmart and carry that? Do you really want him out there?
Yeah.
Train him up.
Definitely.
I don't market the classes anymore as getting that license. That's a bonus. I market the classes as get the knowledge, get the training, and take that and apply that to surviving on a daily basis.
Absolutely. It's definitely, carrying a firearm is definitely...
it's your ticket home.
And it's a responsibility. Being able to protect yourself, like self-defense, is a God-given right. I believe that. But the means in which you use for self-defense, like somebody could be shooting at me and I could decide whether I want to box that person or I want to shoot back. So the means in which you...
It's your free ticket home.
Yeah, or the means in which you defend yourself is something where you, in order for you to be able to perform adequately, to respond to the threat, you have to have the training and the knowledge. And when I was in the military, I had a sergeant that said that everybody rises and falls to the highest level of training when the pressure's on. So the more training that you have, the better that you are going to be in a situation where you would need to deploy that training. So absolutely, being able to market your concealed carry classes more as a training,
knowledge.
Yeah, as a knowledge.
Just come learn.
Absolutely, that's a pretty smart angle to approach it at. So.
Where else are you gonna get knowledge from level 1, 2, 3 holster? Man, those $15 Kydex holsters with just the retention, those are terrible.
Yeah, that's
terrible. Leather holsters.
See, my thing, the holsters I've always hated was the nylon, the little, with the little Velcro strap over the back.
Oh,
strap.
yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like the real cheaply made ones, man. Because honestly, you are having a weapon, and this is another thing that you could probably use in your classes too. This is a personal belief. Having a weapon and using it for concealed carry is an investment on my existence. And I have to have, if I'm making an investment on my existence, I want to be able to make the best investment possible. Meaning, I want to be able to have a weapon that works every time, all the time, no matter what. That's why I'm a Glock man, because it's proven. It's a proven weapon, whether it be water, dirt,
I want to say something before you say it, because you're about to say it, but I don't want to say it, and then it seemed like
No, it's all good.
But you're right.
Yeah, and go ahead, shoot.
I find the Glock boring.
Yeah.
But in that situation, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's designed for practical use.
Absolutely.
And that's the Glock. It's not there to impress you.
Absolutely.
It's not there for sport. It's there it may help you exist.
And not even just the weapon system, the platform, but also the means in which I carry the platform around, so my holster. And that is almost as important. Like it's like equally as important as what weapon system I'm using, because that weapon is going to be resting in that when I'm not using it. It's going to be pulled from that when I need to use it, and it'll be returned to that when I'm not using it.
Yes.
And it can't fail. Like at any point of that, it can't fail at all. So, I understand that some people are on a shoestring budget, but if you can, avoid those nylon holsters, and if you have to get one because you don't have any money, like I think everyone that can carry should carry, but if you have to get that kind of a holster, man, I would like to advise. This is my personal opinion. That they get it inside the waistband.
Yes.
Personal,
absolutely.
like that kind of holster, because your body would create,
I had already made that assumption. That's what you were talking about. Any other way is unacceptable.
No, your body would make the retention to where you could at least be able to recognize when it's being
something.
Yeah, when it's, what I'm saying, if it's being compromised, whether it be inadvertently or through some type of hostile means. So,
and just knowing that little bit of knowledge would take my father from knowing how to be safe with the firearm and going out and exercising the constitutional carry rights.
For sure.
What is he going to do? Put in his thing? I got a pocket holster, but is it safe? No, I've never even used it. Yeah, but I do have a pocket holster.
I mean, I got holsters. I got holsters for everything. I have my most preferred carry, and I'm just going to put it out there because I don't care. But my most preferred carry is outside the waist. I like to carry like I carry like when I'm a police officer, when I'm at the job, whatever, man. Like because like it's just easier for me. That's just something I've been doing for like, man.
And that was Ohio,
years.
You said?
Say what?
And that was Ohio?
Man, no, Ohio, Virginia, here in Florida, like, bro, anywhere. Like I'm an outside the waistband carrier, and I like. So level 3 is what I would have.
Yes.
What I would have on the like what I have now.
And those holsters are just nice because Safari Land holsters.
Yeah, absolutely. Safari Land is probably my favorite, but I like a level 2 retention. The reason I like a level 2 retention is because I don't really like to fumble around all the extra safety measures, but I also like to have it locked into place if I'm either running or if I'm jumping over something. You know what I'm saying? And that gives me just enough retention without the weapon being compromised inadvertently or intentionally. So, and plus I practice and train enough to be able to try to maintain some type of contact with the weapon as often as possible. So that's just me, but that's cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. Level 2, overall on a level of not duty. Yeah, I would agree, because level 3, the draw speed on a level 3 it's too slow.
Yeah, I have some IWBs, man, like inside the waistband, and that's usually for like my smaller weapons, like maybe a Glock 26, burst at 380. I don't know, or the Ruger LCP. Whenever I'm feeling that, if I just have to carry something, you know what I'm saying? Like, now those are 2 380s that
I like.
They're cheap, but
I like for conceal alien.
Alien gear, yeah,
alien gear,
absolutely.
I like theirs because that's where I have the pocket holster.
I like their paddles.
Yeah.
Paddles shaped of an alien head. That's actually pretty creative.
I use those. I started with those.
Yeah.
And then I have Safariland, obviously, for the
but you know, Safariland and sometimes Blackhawk, those can be pretty
Blackhawk,
pricey.
yeah.
Those can be pretty pricey, but I mean, bro, but you're gonna get what you pay for. You're gonna get quality.
Yep.
You're gonna get craftsmanship, and you're gonna get dependability, and all that matters when it comes to the investment on yourself.
Yes,
in my opinion. If you don't care about yourself,
agree.
then the hell with you know what I mean. Forget it. So, but that's me.
And the training is basically a part of the investment on yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Just making yourself get through the day, not have to worry about certain things, not having to worry about an active shooter because you know what to do.
Yep.
You know how to handle the situation, and at home you have a plan of what to do. Who calls 911? Who's going to investigate?
If you don't, you need to have one.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And they're fun to make. Just get with your family. Just discuss it. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun, have codes. We have a code system. We use the similar one that we use here.
Yeah.
And when you hear that, it's all right. Let's go. There's something, and that's when people start moving. And we have a designated 911 caller. We have a designated area that we're all going to go to.
Yep.
Unfortunately, when you first start coming up that plane, you start getting real creative, and then everybody else is like, "Nah, we should probably retreat to a singular room."
Yeah.
But. Yeah, as you start to train, you realize that singular room is a better idea because it's safe. It's ultimately as tactical as you want to be. Now you might have some real tactical plans in your household, dude.
I'm just a regular guy.
You got stuff in tactical locations. You never told me, so it's not like I'm spoiling nothing. But I just know you do. Yeah. So I bet you got that window. You hit the button, the window kind of flips out, and there's that AR right there.
I James Bond sometimes.
Coffee table with the firearm under it.
Just don't break in. We'll see.
I got swords like that.
Yeah, but yeah, man. So, bro, this was an awesome interview, man. Is there anything else that you want to add in closing?
I just hope I've been a decent enough speaker to fit for your channel because I know you got a lot of heroes on.
Nah, you definitely one of the heroes, man. Definitely one of the heroes. And I know that guy during that not even really an assault, that battery that happened that you had to save the day, and I know he was glad that you was there. And I'm sure the deputies were glad that you were there also.
You know what? He didn't. When he was asked if he was injured, he said no.
And on top of that, you being an instructor, man, you are giving people the opportunity. You're giving people the gift of self-defense. I mean, you said you had a female that you're a supervisor for that went through the course and she passed. Man. God forbid, knock on wood, but I mean, she may use the lessons that you taught her and the information that you educated her on to save her life or somebody else's life in the future. And that's what it's all about, man. Giving people, empowering people the ability to do for themselves. And see, that's kind of what this channel is about. It's about focusing on people that are doing incredible things, man. And you may not think. And like a lot of other people, I think everybody that I've interviewed on the channel so far, they don't think there's anything interesting about them, but they have backgrounds, they have stories, they have lessons to teach, whether it be actual lessons or through conversation, lessons to teach that can empower other people. And what I try to do is I try to capture the legacy of these people the best I can. I mean, this is something that your family or whatever can enjoy. A stranger, man, in Australia can enjoy this 20, 30, 40 years down the road, man. And they can always look back and at least know that from this point, this year's 2024, from the beginning of you to 2024, this is what you've accomplished and who you've become. And this could even also be like, like a foundation of kind of like where I've come from. Man, who knows what you can accomplish in 10 years. So, but like I said, man, I appreciate you being on the channel, man. And, being in the military at one time and also being law enforcement, we use a lot of acronyms on this channel and just in those professions. But on this channel, we have an acronym. And the acronym that I have is HOPS. And in HOPS, man, I try to tell people I want them to train hard, train often, train properly, and train safely. Mr. Tibbs, until next time, brother, peace.
Have a good one, man.
No doubt.
That was good. It was fun.
All right.